The nurse at the care home called my granddaughter, puzzled. Something strange is happening. Mr. Bellamy hasn't had a family visit in 2 years. Today all 3 of his children showed up at once, smiling, asking about his finances and whether he has a will. I thought someone should know. My granddaughter told me every word that night. I sat in my little room at Sunhaven Home, where my children had left me to be forgotten. And I understood at once. They had not come back for me. They had heard about the money. Welcome back to the Forgotten Parent. Grab your coffee, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to do right by the ones who raised them. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment, and be sure to subscribe. You're going to want to stay till the end. My name is Abraham Bellamy. I am 78 years old. I live at Sunhaven, a modest care home on the edge of Toledo, Ohio. I wear soft slippers and a worn old sweater. I keep a photo of my late wife Cora on my nightstand. People see a forgotten old man in a care home, the kind of man whose family dropped him off and drove away. For 2 years, that is exactly what I was. Let me tell you how I got here. And let me tell you how my children found out that a forgotten man can still teach a lesson. I worked my whole life as a machinist. Honest work, steady hands, good pay saved carefully. Cora and I raised 3 children in a warm little house. Nathan, the oldest, now 54. Beverly, 51, and Craig, 48. We gave them everything we had: college, weddings, down payments on their first homes. We emptied our savings again and again to lift them up. That is what parents do. You pour yourself out for your children and you count it a joy. Let me tell you how hard I worked. I stood at a lathe for 42 years. I worked doubles when the kids needed shoes. I skipped my own lunches to save for Nathan's college fund. My hands are scarred from the metal. My back is bent from the years. I never once complained. Every hour at that machine, I was building a future for my children. I thought I was building love. I was building a bank account they would one day fight over. But I did not know that then. Then, I only knew that I loved them. Cora was the warm heart of our home. She baked. She sang. She kept every drawing our children ever made. She believed in people, sometimes too much. When the kids grew distant as adults, Cora always made excuses for them. They're busy, Abe. They love us. They just have their own lives now. I wanted to believe her. So, I did. For years I told myself my children loved me in their own busy way. It took an empty window and 2 years of silence to finally see the truth Cora never let me see. We gave and gave. When Nathan's business struggled, we remortgaged our house to save it. When Beverly wanted a big wedding, we paid for all of it. When Craig got into debt, twice. We bailed him out, twice. We never asked for anything back. Not a dime, not a promise. We just wanted them happy. I would do it all again, even now. That is the strange thing about a parent's love. It does not keep score. Even when the child does, even when the child is counting every penny, waiting for you to die. Then Cora got sick. Her final years were long and hard. I cared for her at home as long as I could. My children were too busy to help much. A visit here and there. A phone call on holidays. When Cora finally passed, I was 76 and alone and heartbroken. And that is when my children decided what to do with me. Not out of love, out of convenience. They decided the old man was now a burden to be stored somewhere. They put me in Sunhaven on a gray Tuesday. Nathan handled the paperwork briskly, like he was checking a car into a shop. Beverly cried a little, mostly for herself. Craig did not even come. "It's for the best, Dad," Nathan said. "You'll be looked after here. We'll visit all the time." That was the last real conversation I had with my son for nearly 2 years. They dropped me off, and they drove away, and they got on with their lives as if their father had simply been filed away in a drawer. The visits they promised never came. The first month, Beverly came twice. The second month, once. By the third month, nothing. Birthdays passed without a card. Christmas came, and I sat in the Sunhaven common room watching other families arrive with gifts and hugs, and no one came for me. I would call my children. Nathan was always swamped. Beverly always meant to come by. Craig rarely answered at all. Slowly, I understood. I had not been placed in a home. I had been discarded. Let me tell you about my first Christmas at Sunhaven. I put on my good sweater. I combed my hair. I sat by the front window from morning until night. I had told the nurses my family was coming. I was so sure. Other residents' families came and went all day, laughing, carrying presents. I kept watching the parking lot. Every car that pulled in, my heart lifted. Every car that was not them, it sank. By evening, the lot was empty. No one came. A young nurse found me still sitting there in the dark. She sat with me a while. She did not say anything. She just sat. I will never forget that kindness. A stranger gave me what my children would not. That was the night something in me changed. I stopped waiting by the window. It hurt too much to hope. I learned to expect nothing. When you expect nothing, the silence stops cutting quite so deep. I built a small, quiet life inside those walls. I read. I helped the other residents. I befriended the staff. I made my peace with being forgotten. But at night, I would look at Cora's photo and whisper, "Where did we go wrong with them, love?" She never answered. But I think I know now. We did not go wrong. We just loved children who never learned to love us back. The phone calls were the worst. I would call, and I could hear the impatience in their voices. "Dad, can I call you back? I'm in the middle of something." They never called back. Beverly would say, "I'm coming this weekend. I promise." The weekend would come and go. After a while, I stopped calling. I did not want to be a burden even by telephone. I told myself they were busy. But a man knows. Deep down, a man always knows when he has been left behind. I knew. I just did not have the heart to say it out loud. There is a particular grief in being abandoned by the children you gave everything to. To sit by a window and wait for people who are never coming. To realize the love you thought you had built was one-directional all along. So many of us empty our whole lives into our children, only to be set aside the moment we need something back. I felt that grief every single day in that quiet room. I stopped waiting by the window eventually. It hurt less not to hope. But I was not entirely alone. I had one person. My granddaughter, Cora's namesake, little Cora, though she is 26 now and not little at all. Nathan's daughter. She was the only one who came. Every single week, rain or shine, busy or not, my granddaughter Cora drove across town to sit with me. She brought me books. She brought me news. She held my hand. She was the one bright thread in 2 dark years. She never once asked me for anything. She just loved her grandfather, plainly and faithfully, when no one else would. Let me tell you what my granddaughter did. She was not rich. She worked 2 jobs. She was saving to buy a little house someday. But every Thursday, she drove 40 minutes each way to see me. She brought me my favorite peppermints. She read to me when my eyes got tired. She learned to play checkers just because I liked it. She let me win, and then she caught me letting her win, and we laughed about it. On the hard days, she just held my hand and let me be sad. She never rushed off. She never checked her phone. She was simply there. One Thursday she came in soaked from the rain. Her car had broken down, and she had taken 3 buses to reach me. 3 buses, in the rain, to sit with an old man everyone else had forgotten. I told her she should have just stayed home that day. She looked at me like I had said something crazy. "Grandpa," she said, "you're not a chore. You're my favorite person. Why would I stay home?" I had to turn to the window so she would not see me cry. In 2 years, not one of my own children had said anything close to that. My granddaughter said it while dripping rainwater on my floor. She talked about me to her father sometimes, I later learned. She begged Nathan to visit me. "Dad, he's so lonely. Just go once." "Please," Nathan always said he would. He never did. Cora could not force her father to have a heart. But she made sure I had one person in the world who did. She could not fix my children. So she simply became the family they refused to be. A 26-year-old girl, carrying the whole weight of an old man's love, all by herself, for 2 years, asking nothing in return. Now here is the part my children did not know. They assumed I was broke. They assumed the machinist had nothing left after paying for Cora's care and their many handouts. They filed me away partly because they thought there was nothing to gain by keeping me close. But they were wrong. Years ago, I had made a careful investment. A small stake in a friend's company, back in the 80s. That company grew. Quietly, over decades, that small stake became worth a great deal of money. Nearly $2 million. And I never told a soul. Not even Cora knew the full size of it near the end. Then, a few weeks ago, that old company was bought out. It made a small item in the business news. Bellamy, early investor, significant payout. And somehow, one of my children saw it, or heard about it. And the word spread among them like fire through dry grass. The forgotten father was not broke after all. The old man in the cheap care home was sitting on a fortune. And suddenly, after 2 years of silence, my children remembered they had a father. If you've made it this far, do us one quick favor. Subscribe. A lot of people watch without ever doing it, but it costs you nothing and means everything to us. Thank you genuinely. Now let me tell you what happens when the money comes back and you find out it was never you they wanted at all. The transformation was almost funny to watch, if it had not been so sad. Suddenly Nathan was calling every day. "Dad, I've missed you so much. I feel terrible about how things have been." Suddenly Beverly was bringing flowers and homemade soup. "Daddy, you shouldn't be in a place like this. Let's get you somewhere nicer." Suddenly Craig, who had not spoken to me in 2 years, was at my door with tears in his eyes, calling me Pop like he did as a boy. The love poured in like a flood. And I knew, to the bottom of my heart, that not one drop of it was real. They started, gently at first, to bring up my finances. "Dad, we should make sure your affairs are in order. Daddy, have you thought about your will? We just want to make sure you're protected. Pop, you shouldn't have to worry about money stuff. Let me handle it for you." They circled the fortune like patient vultures, dressed up as devoted children. They thought I did not see it. They thought the forgotten old man was so starved for love that he would swallow the act whole and sign whatever they put in front of him. Something in my chest went very still and very clear. Not the hot hurt of the abandonment. Something colder and steadier. Because I had spent 2 years learning exactly what my children were. The empty window had taught me, and now they stood in my little room performing a love they had refused me when I truly needed it, and all they wanted was the money they thought I would leave them. I was not fooled for even a moment, but I did not let them see that. Instead, I decided to give them a test they would grade themselves. Here is the thing about that money. I had already made up my mind about it, long before my children came running. Months earlier, when the buyout happened, I sat in my little room and thought hard about what to do with $2 million. I had no illusions about my children by then. 2 years of silence had cured me of those. So I made my choice in peace. The one who showed up would be provided for. The ones who did not would receive what their absence had earned. I did not decide this in anger, I decided it in clarity. There is a difference. I called my granddaughter Cora, and I called my lawyer, a sharp and kind woman named Frances, and I told them my plan. First, Frances would help me quietly confirm that everything was already arranged the way I wanted, and then I would gather my 3 children together, and I would tell them a story. A story designed to reveal, once and for all, whether any love remained in them at all, or whether it was only ever about the money. I would give them a chance, a real one, and I would let them show me who they truly were. I did not tell Cora she was the heir. That was important to me. I wanted to watch her keep loving me without knowing there was anything in it for her, and she did. Right up until the day in that room, she thought I was a broke old man in a cheap care home. She kept coming anyway. She kept holding my hand anyway. That is how I knew, beyond all doubt, that her love was the real thing. You cannot fake 2 years of Thursdays for a secret you do not know exists. The test was already over before my other children ever walked in. Cora had passed it without even knowing she was being tested. That is the only kind of love worth leaving anything to. I asked all 3 of my children to come to Sunhaven for a family meeting. They came eagerly, all smiles, certain this was the day the old man would hand over control of his fortune. They sat in a row in my little room. Nathan, Beverly, and Craig. The 3 children I had given everything to, who had left me to rot and come running back for money. I looked at them for a long moment. Then I began the test. "Children," I said, "thank you for coming. I know things have been hard between us. I've been doing a lot of thinking about my money and my will." They leaned in, barely hiding their hunger, and I've made a decision. I've decided to give almost all of it away. Their faces flickered. I'm going to donate the bulk of my fortune to the Sunhaven home and to a charity for elderly people who have been abandoned by their families. Because I know, firsthand, how much that matters. The room went cold. I watched their masks slip. Nathan recovered first, forcing a smile. "Dad, that's very generous, but let's be practical. Charity is nice, but family comes first. That money should stay in the family." Beverly nodded quickly. "Daddy, we're your children. Think of your grandchildren's future." Craig, less careful, blurted, "Pop, you can't just give away our inheritance to a nursing home." There it was, our inheritance. The mask was fully off now. They had not asked how I was. They had not apologized for 2 years of silence. The instant the money was threatened, the love evaporated. I let the silence sit. Then I said quietly, "It's interesting. In 2 years, none of you visited me once. Not a card. Not a call returned. I sat by that window every day, and no one came." Their faces went pale, and then a story about money appears in the news, and suddenly I have 3 devoted children again. So I have to ask you, if I truly had nothing, if the money were gone tomorrow, would any of you be sitting in this room right now? No one answered. The silence was the answer. It filled the room like water. "Let me tell you who did visit me," I continued. "Your daughter, Nathan, Cora, every single week for 2 years. When you all thought I was a broke old man with nothing to give, she gave me her time anyway. She held my hand when none of you would. She asked for nothing. She just loved her grandfather." Nathan looked at the floor, ashamed. He could not meet my eyes. His own daughter had shamed him without saying a word, just by showing up. I kept going. I needed them to hear all of it. "Do you know what today is?" I asked them. None of them knew. "It's your mother's birthday," I said softly. "Cora would have been 76 today. Not one of you remembered. But you all remembered to come ask about my will this month." Beverly started to cry then, but I think it was the cry of a person caught, not a person sorry. "You forgot your mother's birthday," I said, "but you did not forget the money. That is who you have become." I needed to say it out loud, so you could hear it too. The room was silent, except for Beverly's crying. Craig stared at his hands. Nathan's jaw was tight with shame. These were my children. I had loved them with everything I had, and they had become people who forgot their mother's birthday, but remembered their father's bank balance. It was the saddest moment of my life, saying it. But it was also the freest. Because I finally stopped pretending. "So here is what I've actually decided," I said. And I nodded to Francis, my lawyer, who had been sitting quietly in the corner the whole time. Francis stepped forward with the real documents. "Mr. Bellamy has already finalized his estate," she said. "A portion goes to charity, as he said, and to the staff here who cared for him when his family did not. And the remainder, the family portion, goes entirely to his granddaughter, Cora, the one who showed up, effective and irrevocable." My 3 children sat in stunned silence. The fortune they had come to claim had already passed them by completely. They had failed the only test that ever mattered, and they had failed it 2 years before they even knew it was being given. Now here is where I want you to understand the kind of man I am. My children did not poison me. They did not raise a hand against me. Their crime was neglect and greed, a cold abandonment followed by a colder performance. It was a deep wound, but it was not violence. So I did not curse them or scream or have them thrown out. I simply gave what I had to the one who had earned it, and I let my other 3 children sit with the truth of who they had become. That was proportional. The ones who abandoned me received exactly what their love had been worth. Nothing they did not earn. But I did one more thing, and I want you to hear it, because it is the most important part. I did not slam the door on them forever. Before they left that room, I said, "You have lost the money." It was never really about the money. What you lost 2 years ago, when you decided I was a burden. But I am still your father. If any of you ever wants to come and simply sit with me, with no inheritance left to gain, my door is open. That is the only way you can ever earn back what you threw away. Not with my money. With your time. Now that there's nothing in it for you, we'll see whoever comes back. The results told me everything. Craig and Beverly, I have not seen since. The moment the money was gone, so were they, confirming exactly what they always were. Beverly sent one angry message. She called me cruel. She said I had chosen a grandchild over my own children. I did not reply. There was nothing to say. I did not choose Cora over them. They chose the money over me 2 years ago in a Sunhaven parking lot on Christmas. I just finally believed them. But Nathan, my oldest, something broke open in him in that room. He came back the next week. Alone, no lawyer, no documents, no agenda. He just sat with me. "Dad," he said, his voice breaking, "I don't want anything. I just want to be your son again. I'm so ashamed. Cora tried to tell me for 2 years and I wouldn't listen." He wept. And I held my boy, and I began, slowly, to forgive him. Because he came back when there was nothing left to gain. I asked Nathan why. Why he came back, when his brother and sister did not. He thought about it a long time. Because when you said Cora visited every week, he told me, I realized my own daughter is a better person than I am. And I couldn't live with that. I want to be someone she'd be proud of. Someone you'd be proud of. Even if it's too late. I told him it is never too late to start showing up. It is only too late to get back the days you already missed. He is showing up now. Every Sunday. That is worth more to me than the whole 2 million. Nathan and I talk about real things now, his regrets, my loneliness, the years we lost. It is not easy. There is a lot of pain to work through. But it is honest. And honest is a foundation you can build on. He asked me once if he could earn back a place in my will. I told him the truth. Son, I don't want you to visit me for a place in my will. I want you to visit me because I'm your father. The moment there's money in it again, I'll wonder. Come for me. Only for me. That's the only inheritance that was ever real. My granddaughter Cora cried when she learned what I had done. Not for the money, though it will change her life. She cried because, she said, Grandpa, I never came for that. I would have come anyway. Forever, I know, sweetheart. That is exactly why you deserved it. The money will let her buy a home and start the family she dreams of. But the real gift passed between us long before any of that. It passed in a quiet room, week after week, when a young woman chose to love a man the world had thrown away. These days, my life is fuller than it has been in years. Cora comes twice a week now and brings her young man, who I like very much. Nathan comes every Sunday, and we are slowly rebuilding something real, built on presents instead of promises. I moved to a nicer care home, one Cora helped me choose, with a garden where I grow tomatoes like Cora and I used to. I am not forgotten anymore. And the ones sitting with me now are the ones who were always going to sit with me. Money or no money, that is the only kind of family worth having. I keep Cora's photo on my nightstand still. I talk to her every night. I told her what our children did and what our granddaughter did and how I sorted it all out. I like to think she smiled her gentle smile. "You always could tell real from fake, Abe," she would have said. "You gave it to the one with my heart and my name." I did, Cora. Little Cora has your heart exactly. The love we poured out was not wasted after all. It just skipped a generation and landed exactly where it belonged. Let me tell you about my new life. It is small. It is good. I have a room with a garden view. I grow tomatoes again. Cora comes on Thursdays and Sundays. Nathan comes every Sunday too. We eat lunch together. We play checkers. I let him win. He catches me. We laugh. It is the simplest thing in the world. It is everything I wanted for 2 lonely years. And it costs nothing. It never did. That is the cruel joke of it all. The thing I longed for was free. My other children just would not pay it. Cora bought her little house. She sent me a photo of the front porch. There is a rocking chair on it. For me, for when I visit. She wants me to come every summer. She is expecting a baby now, a girl. She is going to name her after her great-grandmother. Another Cora. The love my wife and I poured out is not gone. It is growing. It skipped the greedy hands and landed in the gentle ones, and now it is having children of its own. That is a kind of immortality. That is the only inheritance that ever mattered. I still wear my soft slippers and my worn sweater. People still look at me and see a forgotten old man in a care home, but I am not forgotten. I was, for 2 years, and it nearly broke me. But I learned something in that empty-windowed grief. Love is not measured in promises or blood or inheritance. It is measured in who shows up when there is nothing to gain. My children showed up for money. My granddaughter showed up for me. And in the end, the old man everyone wrote off got to decide which kind of love to reward. I chose the real kind. I will always choose the real kind. If you like this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being part of this family. And remember this: watch who visits when you have nothing. Watch who calls when there is no money in it, no favor to gain, no inheritance to protect. Those people, however few, are your real family. Everyone else is just waiting by a different window, watching for the money to arrive. Give your heart and your legacy to the ones who showed up when the window was empty.